Welcome to Spirituality Explained for the Average Joe, where I take one spiritual topic and cover it for you in a short episode. Today's episode's a little bit different because I'm just going to give you a challenge for 2023. I try to think of what's the most significant thing I could give you to take away in 2023, and this is me taking a stab at it. Okay, so if we analyze the motive behind anything in the world, we'll find that all actions have a common universal goal, which is to avoid and remove pain and obtain bliss. Oh yes, the equation always goes back to happiness, joy, bliss, fulfillment. But if this was an easy recipe, the most successful people in the world would be happy. But we're not, right? We're living in a mental health crisis and junk happiness is on the rise. So I'm going to do this in a three-pronged approach, three legs to my stool. And the first one is the physical, right? Like we need a healthy body. We're living in a physical world, but we can't really it's quite interesting because the physical world is matter, right? We're living in an entropy-based world, which means everything's going to die. So in a world where everything is in a state of change, how do we still feel bliss and happiness, right? Because people are going to die, people are going to hurt you, betray you, and we're living in a physical earth suit that has these five senses that help us interpret the world and feel these emotions. So where's the bliss in this physical world? Which brings us to our second prong, which is you've got to have a strong emotional and mental state of mind in order to survive. And we all know that all suffering comes from within, right? Our thoughts and our actions actually create our own suffering. So a lot of studies with hospice workers and palliative care nurses shows that when we're dying, two of our biggest fears, the biggest fear that everybody's experienced, that humans, the human condition when dying, is I didn't really live. I didn't fully live. You lived an inauthentic life to yourself. You didn't live in alignment. You didn't go after what you knew was important. You didn't do the thing. You were content. And we didn't come here to live in a state of contentness, right? Instead, we're busy derping through life with junk happiness, right? We're not Ricky Bobby waking up and pissing excellence in the morning. So junk happiness is really our daily habitual habits. It's not a core happiness. It's Instagram feeds, it's pornography, it's a little bit of like what I like, watching the markets, gambling online, shopping online, eating sugar, drinking alcohol daily, junk happiness. But we don't have to try to change the actual behavior because it's still going to be there. It's the junk happiness is feeding the need for it, right? The need, which is probably avoidance is probably one of the largest things. Avoidance to the anxiety or stress of the actual moment, or even the avoidance of boredom, all just feeding into our dopamine, right? It's all big dopamine hits. So how do we get rid of the need for this junk happiness, right? And fix our behaviors? It always goes back to self-solitude, introspection, meditation. So find out what your values are. Actually write down your values, because once they're written, you can actually edit them. But until they're actually written down, you actually have no real path plan or anything for yourself. We're even sent a signal midway through our midlife crisis for the ages between 35 and 55, where it's this extreme reflection upon our lives. I like to think of mine as a midlife expansion. But it's where we'll typically go out and try to get married, have kids, have affairs, buy the cars. But this is all an external search in our physical world. None of these external solutions are going to work for us. Why? Simply put, because we are the soul. The soul is self-luminous, like the sun. The sun doesn't need light from any other planet or star. The soul doesn't need anything. It's self-contained. It's self-luminous, meaning all these external experiences that we keep throwing at it, it doesn't affect it whatsoever. So when we're dying, first fear, I didn't live fully and authentically to the most extent. And the second, all plants, animals, and humans have this very strong innate desire for self-preservation. We're dying, yet we don't understand that we're this infinite being that goes on and we're just trapped in this three-body suit. Why? Because while we were here, we had spent no time on the third-pronged approach, which is the spiritual side of life. We didn't explore it, we didn't understand it. And it leads us into this muck of a talk about religion, right? Most people these days don't like to talk about it because man has done a really good job of making organized religion hard to even swallow. And I'm with you on this, guys. But very rarely can I talk about self-development without it actually crossing directly over into the spiritual realm. We've always when you start with self-development, what are we, where do we come from, where are we going, right? Like that has to be the foundation of understanding anything. And rarely do we meet someone that's like well-balanced, attached to nothing, open to anything, understanding that all of their emotions are within their own control, not from others, right? All of that is spiritual truths that passes into the mental and emotional. So the third prong, spirituality. So we know that God, the universe, all that is infinite intelligence, this thought matrix exists because of quantum physics, right? And we've seen this through science-based studies that infinite intelligence and energy, thinking energy creates quantum leaps. Basically, easier put is thoughts become things, right? So we know this. But this doesn't mean that you have to like start going to church weekly. It really is that you've got to, what are your values? What's important to you? Start being in alignment and start feeling good. Have you ever noticed that when you feel good and you decide you're going to go out and play with the world and you're in alignment and you smile at people and you just have fun and you talk to people, the world plays back with you. And that's really, you feel good from that. It's much better than obviously people honking at you and things being in a disarray. And that's, you're happy with that because A, you have control over your environment because you took the time to make the alignment and have fun and play and be kind. And the second, you're being loving, kind, compassionate, and you're just living. Well, there's nothing more important than to be kind, than to give and receive love. There's nothing more powerful, there's nothing more far-reaching, and there's nothing less complicated. That is what it is all about. And it's the most wild and wonderful thing that this whole conception is made up of. So don't let religion mess that up for you. Diamond says to chase anything else would be like chasing the shadows of dreams. So when life throws us a curveball, I hope those three things help, because in a world of matter and entropy, when everything is changing, I don't really know how else to thrive in it without actually having all three. So my challenge for you in 2023, to kind of like bring this whole discussion full circle, is that everything that matters isn't matter. The love for your children are infinite beings, your love is infinite. Everything that matters isn't matter. So my challenge to you is remember that. Everything that matters isn't matter. When I thought of it yesterday, I was like, that's a t-shirt. So thanks so much for tuning in. I love you so much. Happy New Year.